A shocking headline hits your screen. Deadly new virus sweeps the nation. What you don't realize is only 0.01% of the population is at risk. But the emotional response you feel, fear, anxiety, and urgency, was exactly what the writer intended. Sensationalism is the over-exaggeration of facts or situations to provoke emotional responses, commonly seen in headlines, news stories, and media in general. Emotional manipulation involves the use of language, imagery, and messaging specifically designed to manipulate the viewer's emotions, often at the expense of rational thinking or critical analysis.
Chapter 1. The Psychology of Sensationalism. Our human brain has a unique way of responding to shocking, dramatic, or intense stimuli. It's called the fight or flight response. This is where the amygdala hijack comes into play. The emotional part of our brain overrides rational thinking when we are exposed to fear-based or overly dramatic information. We also have a negativity bias, meaning we are wired to focus more on negative experiences or information because evolutionarily it helped with survival. Sensationalist media exploits this bias. And then there's the role of dopamine. Sensational stories, particularly those that arouse anger, fear, or excitement, release dopamine, making the content more engaging and, well, addictive. This is where clickbait culture thrives. Sensationalist headlines are designed to trigger these emotional responses quickly, drawing people in to click on articles regardless of the substance behind them. A real-world example would be "The Murder Hornets Invade America" headline in 2020, which led to widespread panic despite there being little actual risk to the general public. Media outlets profited from the sensation while downplaying the real science behind the story.
Chapter 2. Emotional manipulation and its forms. Fear-mongering involves using fear to influence public perception. Examples include news about terrorism, pandemics, or crime spikes. Constant exposure to fear-based stories creates a distorted view of the world, exaggerating dangers and increasing anxiety. The psychological effect of prolonged exposure to fear-based stories can lead to anxiety, stress, and even PTSD-like symptoms. Anger is another tool media uses to drive engagement. Anger is a powerful motivator for action, like sharing or commenting on social media. By presenting information in a way that deliberately incites outrage, media outlets keep audiences engaged longer. A real-world example would be how 24-hour news channels often overplay divisive political topics, creating outrage-driven engagement. Guilt and sympathy are also used, with stories designed to make viewers feel guilty or sympathetic, often using images of suffering from humanitarian crises or disasters. While these stories can drive necessary awareness, they can also be emotionally manipulative when facts are distorted or oversimplified. The psychological effect here can result in compassion fatigue, where viewers become desensitized and no longer respond to real crises.
Chapter 3. Sensationalism in Media and News Reporting. The role of 24-hour news cycles is significant. The demand for constant content forces news outlets to sensationalize even mundane stories. There's a constant need for breaking news and shocking revelations, leading to an overblown presentation of minor events. Social media amplification also plays a crucial role. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube reward sensational content through algorithms. Stories that provoke the most engagement, likes, shares, comments, are prioritized over balanced, factual reporting. A real-world example would be the 2016 US election coverage. Sensationalist coverage amplified divisive rhetoric and conspiracy theories, leading to widespread public polarization. Another example is Brexit. Media coverage was filled with extreme predictions and emotionally charged language that influenced voters' perceptions, often overshadowing more nuanced discussion.
Chapter 4. How sensationalism alters perception and behavior. Constant exposure to sensational news makes viewers numb to real-world issues. Over time, they require more extreme content to feel engaged, leading to an arms race of ever more dramatic headlines. Sensationalized media tends to highlight the most extreme views, fostering division between different political, social, or cultural groups. It often presents issues in black and white terms, leading to an US versus them mentality. This results in increased political and social polarization, where people no longer seek out nuanced views or compromise. Sensationalism also preys on pre-existing beliefs. People are more likely to believe sensational stories that confirm their worldview. Media outlets, aware of this, tailor sensationalist content to their specific audience, reinforcing tribalism. For example, different outlets might cover the same story with entirely different emotional tones based on their audience, like Fox News versus MSNBC during significant events such as political scandals or racial justice movements. From the rise of conspiracy theories to panic buying during crises, sensationalist media can directly affect real-world actions.
Chapter 5. Historical examples of sensationalism and emotional manipulation. In the early 20th century, yellow journalism played a significant role in fueling public opinion and leading to the Spanish-American War. Publishers like William Randolph Hearst used emotional manipulation and sensationalized headlines to stir up support for war efforts, regardless of the actual facts. During the era of McCarthyism and the Red Scare, emotional manipulation through fear-mongering about communism led to widespread paranoia and the blacklisting of innocent people. This resulted in public hysteria and ruined careers and lives due to the emotional intensity of media coverage at the time. Post-9/11 media saw an explosion of fear-driven coverage about terrorism, leading to widespread anxiety and support for policies like the Patriot Act, which may have otherwise faced more scrutiny. This heightened xenophobia, fear of travel, and increased societal division.
Chapter 6. Case Study of Sensationalism and Emotional Manipulation in the Digital Age. The rise of clickbait headlines has really amplified sensationalism in the internet and social media era. Articles that provoke emotional reactions are shared more widely, generating more revenue for websites through ads and clicks. The role of fake news and disinformation, especially during election cycles, showcases how misinformation campaigns have used sensationalism to manipulate voters. Often, these stories are emotionally charged to provoke outrage or fear. The psychological effect? Well, it's the erosion of trust in media, institutions, and even democracy itself. Take the COVID-19 pandemic coverage, for example. Sensationalism about both the dangers and conspiracies surrounding COVID-19 led to widespread panic and, in some cases, denial. Emotional manipulation on both ends of the spectrum, fear versus conspiracy, divided the public on how to approach the pandemic. The psychological impact has been significant, increased anxiety, depression, and confusion about public health guidelines.
Chapter 7. Sensationalism in Advertising and Entertainment. Fear in advertising is a powerful tool. Brands often use the fear of missing out, social rejection, or personal insecurity to sell products. Examples include beauty products that play on insecurities about appearance or insurance ads that exaggerate the dangers of everyday life. The psychological effect of this, increased consumer anxiety, and the normalization of emotionally driven purchases. Sensationalism in reality TV and news entertainment is another big issue. Shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians or networks like Fox News present exaggerated, emotionally driven narratives that shape public perceptions. The psychological impact here is that viewers develop skewed perceptions of reality, become desensitized to real issues, and have an increased appetite for extreme content. Chapter 8. The ethical implications of sensationalism. Sensationalism damages public discourse by undermining serious conversation about important issues. Instead of rational debate, public discourse becomes emotionally charged and less informed. There's also a loss of trust in media. The constant barrage of sensationalized content has led to widespread skepticism about the credibility of news sources. The public has become more cynical and less likely to trust even factual reporting. Continuous exposure to emotionally charged content can lead to psychological exhaustion. This means mental fatigue, stress, and an inability to process or engage with important issues. Conclusion: how to combat sensationalism and emotional manipulation. Critical thinking and media literacy are crucial. Educating the public to recognize sensationalism and question emotionally manipulative content is key. Encourage viewers to seek out multiple sources of information and develop a more nuanced understanding of issues. The role of social media regulation cannot be understated. Tech companies can limit the spread of sensational content through algorithm adjustments. And finally, ethical journalism and accountability are essential. Media outlets need to return to a more balanced, fact-based approach to reporting, avoiding the temptation to sensationalize for profit.
Remember to like and subscribe for more video content. Sapiens quae vigilat.